Hi there, my name is April Sawtelle and welcome to my channel. Today what I'm going to be doing is just showing you a really simple way to make a table runner. This is going to be a Halloween table runner and it's going to be done with Halloween fabric. This can be done with any fabric obviously, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 3 fat quarters for the top, 3 fat quarters for the bottom. All you're going to need for this project is I've got an iron, I've got a ruler, my chopstick, scissors, rotary cutter. I'm going to need a marking tool today too. I've got some 505, some basting spray here. I'm just going to use that a little bit. I've got some pins and I've also got some safety pins that I'm going to be using during this project. You'll need some fat quarters and I'm also going to be needing some batting for the inside. There's not going to be any binding on this. We're going to be turning this inside out once we get going here. Okay, let's get started. I'm just going to be using my iron and I will be using steam in this. And I'm going to lay them flat. So 6. I'm going to sew 3 of one kind and 3 of another. I'm just going to square my fat quarters up now. I've got my selvages all to the right. I'm going to line them right up on any line. And then I'm going to come over here to my left. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to take about a 1/2 inch off. I just want to straighten these out. So I've got mine lined up. I've got 3 here. I'm going to cut 3 at a time. You're going to want a nice sharp rotary blade and just give it a good cut. That way you'll be nice and straight when you're putting this together. I'll keep these little pieces for the scraps. I'm going to spin this. I'm going to now line that up on a line. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to trim off about a 1/2 inch. So my bottom line here is nice and straight. Over here I can see I'm going to need to cut quite a bit off because this bottom one is way in. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick your fabric up and you're going to want to make sure you see all the fabric, all 3 of these underneath your ruler. I'm just going to bring this over. I know that my salvage is straight. I know that my line here on the bottom is straight because I just cut that. So now I'm just going to keep peeking and bring my ruler over until I'm nice and until I can see all 3 fabrics underneath my ruler. The line is good and straight. I just cut that. I'm going to pull this up until I see all 3 layers here. Okay, I see all 3. I know I can put this on this line now. And I can see all 3. You can see these were really super. The way these were cut were not very straight at all. That's okay. I want them straight and I'll do that now. I'm going to keep my bottom line straight and I'm just going to line this up on this line here. Any line. I see all 3 pieces and I'm just going to give that a cut. Okay, so I've got everything lined up here on the left-hand side and on the bottom. I'm right on the line there. Those sides are already all squared up. I'm just going to count on my mat 16 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I'm going to put my ruler right on that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to line everything up, make sure even though they're lined on the mat, I'm not just using the mat either. All I'm doing is looking for a straight line. So I've got my mark here where at the bottom, I've got some markers on my ruler that I'm following at the top and at the bottom. I'm using my line here, not a particular number, just a line, and I can see the line down here. So you want to count twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay? Measure twice, cut once. I'm going to go ahead and cut that right here. You can see now that was quite off. How narrow this is at the bottom and how wide this is at the top. Save that and use that for scrap fabric. After After trimming these all up, they come up to 16 by 21 inches. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the other 3 fat quarters. So now this should equal 16 by 21. Now we're going to go over to the sewing machine. We're going to sew right sides together. You can sew that down at 1/4 inch. Open it up. Take your third one. Sew right sides together. Let's go with the sewing machine. I'll show you how. Today I'm just working on my Juki T11 21Q. I'm going to be just using some black thread and some black bobbin thread just so it blends right into my work here. So I'm just going to be putting right sides together here. I just put some pins in just to hold this in place while I sew. So 1/4 inch, and I've got my tape here lined up at my 1/4 inch, and I've got my machine set on about 3. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'll give this a little back stitch. And I'm just going to follow my tape all the way down. And I'm going to take my pins out as I go. And I just give it a little back stitch at the end. Okay, now just take that. There's your seam. Open that up, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to add the next piece on top, right sides together. If you want to pop a couple pins in, go right ahead and do the same exact thing. And I'm just following my green painter's tape here. I'm going to just start with that little back stitch. Pull my pin out. Following this line here. I'm just giving one back stitch. Okay, I'll cut that right there. And just do the same thing on this side. So now I've got my 2 pieces all done. I've sewn all 3 pieces together. So I've got this nice long strip. All I'm going to do is push the seams to one side. I'm going to press like that. But you could also press them open if you wanted to. So I've got a piece of batting. You're going to want your batting about, a little bit bigger than what your fabric is. So lay your batting right down. And then on top of that, you're just going to put one of the table runners right side up. You could put quilting pins all the way around here. I'm just going to spray base this part right here a little bit. I'm just going to use this 505 temporary adhesive. I'm going to spray this top piece down just to make this really easy. And I'm just going to give it a little bit. It'll just help it stick to it a little bit. So I'll be able to maneuver it around. And I'll pull this side over. And then just flatten this all out. And now what you can do after you've done that, just go ahead and trim this all up. Now just leave the other side of the runner out. You're going to put this piece face up, and you're going to lay this down right on top of it. And you're just going to go right sides together. So the bottom is face up, the top is face down, and the batten is now on the top. All right, and that should fit perfectly because you've already trimmed everything down. Now I'm going to use my pins, and I'm just going to stick some pins in this just to hold this together so I can go over and sew this. I'm not going to put too many. And you want to go through all the layers here. Put the pins in. I usually start in the middle and then I'll work my way around. You just want to keep pressing it flat as you go. I just evenly space them. A lot of times I'll just do a fist. In this particular situation, I'm going to put even less than that because this isn't for me to quilt. This is just so I can hold it together to get to the sewing machine, and then I'm going to be turning it the right way. I'm going to take my marking tool now, and I'm going to give about an 8-inch opening so I'll be able to turn this through. You just don't want to start right here on the edges, so you want to come in a little bit. So I'll go right here. I'm going to make a little mark. You could stick a pin there too, and I'll go to here. So you can see my mark here and my mark here, and that's about 8 inches apart, and that's going to be where I'm going to turn this through. And that way there's a reference mark here so I'll know where to stop. I'm going to start like right here. I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to go all the way around until I get back to this other blue line. Okay, I'll see you at the sewing machine. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to follow. I have a 1/2 inch line with my tape here, and I'm just going to follow my tape. I'm going to start at this blue line, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this a back stitch. And I'm just going to follow this all the way down. When you come to this intersection, you can either go off like this, you can just pivot. And then I'm just going to bring it back in at this corner, and I'm going to come in my 1/2 inch, following my tape. Now where I took the pin out of that one, I'm just making sure that I'm feeling that I've got all the layers underneath me. So all you're going to do now is you're just going to sew this all the way to this line. You've gone all the way around, and now you've got your 2 blue lines here, or wherever you've put for markers, and this is where your opening is going to be. Okay, I'll see you back at the table. Now I'm just going to take all these pins out, and I'm going to turn this right side out. Okay, I've got all the pins out now, and I just need to go around and snip off all these corners, but not into the seam. You can see the seam. I'm going to take just the corner. That's going to lessen the bulk. Go ahead and do that to all 4 sides. Okay, now you're just going to put your hand in the hole. Pull this all the way through, grabbing those corners, and just pull it through. Take your finger and go ahead and push out all of these little points. These are the corners on all sides. After you pull this right side out, all you're going to do is go around with your iron, and you're going to need some steam, and you're just going to push out all of the seams. Go ahead and do that all the way around. I've already pushed the corners out with my chopstick, so now you're just going to go and you're going to push down all these seams and push them out. Now you're at the edge here. You just want to fold that over, matching that up, and you want to give that a really good press right there too. That's the opening that we left open to turn it through. So you want to press that really flat. Okay? Now what I want to do is I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew about 1/8 of an inch all the way around the whole top here. Okay, I'll see you at the sewing machine. I've just gone ahead now, and where that opening was, I've just stuck a couple of pins in there. I'm going to start just about where that opening starts, and I'm going to give it a stitch, and I'm going to give it a back stitch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come all the way down, all the way around this whole topper. Okay, I'm following, now all I'm doing is following my pressure foot. I'm not following the tape any longer. And I'm going to take my pins out as I go. All I'm doing right now is sealing up that hole. I'm going to stop when I come, before I get to this corner here. I'm going to stop. I want to stop about 1/8 of an inch in. Okay, and then I'm going to pivot and turn. And I'm just going to follow this edge all the way down, following my pressure foot. I can see right here, I did not get my point all the way out. Right here, I did not get this point all the way out. So I'm going to just go in with my tweezers here and pull that out. There. Now I'm just going to bring this right back to the edge, but about 1/8 of an inch before the edge. Now I've gone all the way around. I want to put one more, I want to go around one more time. I want to make it bigger. I think I want to go 1 inch around, so I'm going to take and move my tape over to the 1 inch mark. I'm just measuring from my needle, and I'm going to follow my tape now at the 1 inch mark all the way around. I'm just lining my fabric up right here. I'll start with a little back stitch and just go all the way around. I'm going to stop 1 inch before the edge here. If you want to measure that, right about here. Now I'm just going to pivot and turn. I like that nice wide edge that I'm making because it's going to leave like this hump here. And after this is all quilted and washed, it'll just look even more quilted. I'm not binding the quilt, and this is just kind of going to give it that little binding look. And you're just going to do this all the way around. And I'll give it a back stitch right there. Okay, so now there's what this side looks like. And here's what this side looks like. I'm going to quilt this very lightly. Okay, so here's how it came out now. I'm just folding this in half, and all I'm trying to do is make a crease mark. And I want to follow that crease mark with my, when I sew, I just want to give it a little bit of quilting. So I'm going to do this a couple of different times. So I'll show you how I do this. There. Now that's nice and flat. I'm going to follow this crease line all the way down. That's right in the center. I'm going to do that right over at the sewing machine. Now I'm just going to sew about halfway between this crease mark here, where I just sewed, and this mark here. I want to sew about halfway in between there. Now that I know exactly where I want to be, I'm just going to put a piece of tape here to keep me in line. I just want my edge right here. As long as I follow that edge, I'll be right where I want to be. And that tape is helping to guide me. I use a painter's tape for lots and lots and lots of things. I'm going to make it a little bit longer. I'll bring it right off the table here. So I can start straightening out way down here. All right. Stop right when I get to the inside of that edge that I had made. And I'll give it a little back stitch right there. I just don't want to go over that edge in here. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Now it's going to be easy. I'm just going to line this right up on my tape here. On the inside of that edge. And my tape is lined where I wanted it. Give it a back stitch. And here I go. And again, just using my blue tape here as my guide. By bringing it off the table, it allows me to straighten out way back here. And I'm coming to the end and I want to stop right at that seam. Inside of it. Inside this seam I had made here. And I give it a back stitch. Okay, I think that's as much as I want to do for this. And when this gets washed, that's going to kind of bubble up here and crinkle up in the middle. But that's just enough quilting that it'll just keep it together. Perfect. Here's how it came out. There's one side. Here's the other. It came out at about 15 by 60. And this is going to be perfect for what we need it for. I know a whole bunch of little kids that are just going to love this. Once it gets washed, it'll get crinkly. And this will make a great reversible table runner. It just has very little quilting in it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Remember to keep it simple. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching. Bye. Say bye, little Miss Reddy Thready.